everyone? Welcome to another episode of Queen City Unleashed. I am Shea Alushina, and today I have with me Pedro from P3 Soccer Lab. Pedro, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Shay. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to...
I'm excited to have you. As a football lover myself, repping the Nigeria squad here, I am very excited to talk to someone who loves the game so much. The game brought you to the States.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Where are you from originally, and how soccer has really taken you to a completely different continent?
100%. Man. So I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Okay.
So growing up there, like all the kids pretty much growing up playing, right? Since my age of 5. Well, since I can remember, I've been playing soccer to some extent. Oh, sorry, football.
Yeah.
Right? To some extent. And, started playing on the streets with my friends, playing at school just for fun.
Yeah.
When I got to the age of 8, 9, I started playing futsal, which is an indoor football. Which is
much fun.
It's so much fun. It's like amazing for development, learning how to play in small spaces and all that. So that's what I started doing. And then by the age of 12, that's when I joined my first football club, which was São Cristóvão, which, funny fact, is that was the first club that Ronaldo Nazário played for. That was their formative club.
The Ronaldo. Yes. Not Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
The Ronaldo. The real soccer fans know. There is the Ronaldo and CR7. The Ronaldo.
Exactly. The funny hair. And
yeah.
So yeah, man. So I grew up playing. I played there for like 2 years on that club, where that was the first time I had my opportunity to play competitive football. That's where I learned a lot about the landscape on the football scene. Learn how to deal with people from all different backgrounds and all that. And then after 2 years, I went to another club that's called CFZ, which is the Zico. You know Zico? Okay, it's another, you gotta search that one. A big footballer as well in Brazil. And he had this club, which was very good. I played there for about a year. Then after that, I moved to Madureira, which is a Division 3 club. And we were considered the best formative club in the city. Wow. So basically, all the kids that went to Flamengo, Vasco, Botafogo, Fluminense, the big teams in Rio,
came from there.
Many of them came from there.
That's dope.
So that was the hypeest on my youth career, per se. Was very excited, always dreaming about becoming a professional player. Played there for 4 years until my age of 20. And when I got to this point, I wasn't that transition between, is that actually going to work, right? And to go in pro, or should I start considering a plan B or a second option? Yeah. And by the age of, when I was 21, I was unfortunately released from the team. I was with the professional team for about 6 months, but then they decided not to keep me up. So I went back to São Cristóvão, my very first team. Yeah. Stayed there for another 6 months, but then I got an opportunity to come to the U.S. and play with a scholarship. And I was already on my 21st birthday kind of around. I was like, I'm getting a little bit old, for the sport. So I have to start thinking about a second option. And when I had the opportunity to keep on playing, but also get my education, that's not a reality back in Brazil. Yeah. I have to choose either go to school or you try to go and be a professional player. Yeah. But here's different. We have the chance to do both.
That's awesome.
So I was like, let's give it a shot. So then I moved to U.S.
And then you played at Queens.
Yes, but there's a little gap there. Before I went to Queens, I went to Marshalltown Community College. Which I'll tell you, I think was the best experience with the sport that I had.
Really?
Wow. People don't really understand that because Marshalltown is a small town in Iowa, man.
Iowa?
Iowa, yes.
I have never been to Iowa.
You're not missing much, you're gonna tell you. He's like, I love my teammates, my coach, Rafael Martinez. If you ever watch this, man, I love that guy. Like, I will give back to Marshalltown as much as I can. Yeah. Because that guy changed my life. He understood that, we were a bunch of Brazilians, a bunch of Spaniards. That was the first year that the community college tournament allowed unlimited number of international players. And he's from Spain. So we were like a bunch of people from Spain and Brazil playing Marshalltown, Iowa. So we won every single game.
I was going to say, you guys are probably killing it.
It was really good, but the social aspect of that was very challenging, right? Really? The city was 20,000 people in the city, and I'm coming from Rio that have 10 million. Yeah. And most of the players were also in the same situation, and it was very cold, right? Ooh. And then there's literally nothing to do.
So you guys were really close.
We were so tied up, and the coach did a great job maintaining that chemistry. And he will make sure that we felt comfortable there. Yeah. He made sure that we actually became a family. He would be out of his way to make sure that we were doing things as a team. connect us with people in the city to make us comfortable. So he literally changed our lives. Like, I guarantee you, every single player that played with me on that year, 2015 to 16, they all very grateful with the opportunity that we had to play that.
That's awesome. A coach is willing to take a chance and create the right environment. I mean, that's special.
It's big. And this is more rare than you think.
So, okay, so from Iowa to Charlotte.
Exactly.
And you played at Queens. How was that?
Correct. That was great. I saw people on the streets for the first time after 2 years,
And no snow.
No snow. So that's
sure that. Because Rio doesn't get snow, right?
Oh, nah.
Exactly. So you went to Iowa and then saw snow, and then you're like, all right, let's go back to Charlotte. Okay.
So that was nice, to have a little bit of warmth, to be able to go to a place, go to a bar, to a restaurant without having to drive 30 minutes. That was a big change there.
And then you stayed here afterwards.
Yes.
Been here since. Okay. Awesome. You said something earlier. We'll both probably call it football and soccer.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you knew this. I recently learned this, that soccer comes from the British. Did you see this?
I learned that recently from my wife. This is very crazy. She doesn't know anything about it.
It's from the British. And there was this whole, if you don't know, like there's this whole joke that the United States is the only one who calls soccer football. We call it soccer here. So apparently the story is something like there was a league or like whatever the federation was in England was like ASOC, was like Association for Sports something. And then there was a phase in British culture where they were adding ER to the end of everything. So it got called a soccer. Well, then they took the A out and then just started calling it soccer. And so as the sport got more famous and came to the States, soccer is what came because there was already football. But then the British decided they didn't like soccer anymore. And so they stopped saying it. And then they make fun of the Americans for saying it. But the British were the ones who came up with the word soccer. And I was like, oh my goodness.
All these years.
Right. All the years, all the jokes from the British about it, the whole world. I'm like, it's not even the Americans' fault. I was like, we were bamboozled. Like you gave us it was like the okay, no, here's what you say, just kidding. And now we're going to change it. Now we're going to make fun of you. So it felt like that was a very funny, interesting fact about the name. So here in Charlotte, what do you like to do for fun? Where can we find you? Not work. We'll get to everything that P3 is doing, but where can we find you, your wife? What do you guys like to do for fun and hang out?
We love to hike, so we go to Whitewater Center frequently. That's one of our favorite spots.
Yeah.
We love the neighborhood of Noda. We're always in Noda. Some brewery. The atmosphere there.
Yeah.
Those are the places definitely will find me. And this new restaurant called Seaboard. That opened recently.
Where?
It's in South End.
Okay.
And we opened last week. And from one of my best friends, Lebo, is this guy. He's from Zimbabwe. And he has some African cuisine over there. The drinks are amazing.
Okay.
So I love that.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Seaboard.
Shout out to Seaboard. Your buddy's
check it out, Seaboard. Lebo.
All right. Lebo and Seaboard. Okay. Shout out from the podcast. Okay. So do you... Coming from Brazil, what kind of cuisine do you like? Did you get here and like love the American cuisine? Are you looking for Spanish or just international as a whole? Like what kind of food, what kind of restaurants do you like to eat at here?
Man, telling you, when I got here and I saw what you guys were geeting, I'm like, wow.
In a good way or a bad way?
Bad way, man. I'm like, geez, what all this bacon and sausage coming from for breakfast? That's too much fat. But then now I love it. I totally get it. But that was a big shock for me, honestly. Yeah, like the amount of fast food, the amount of processed food, that was a little bit tough at first, but kind of conformed to that now, I'm not going to lie, and I love it. As a Brazilian, I'm a big like rice and beans.
Oh, yeah.
Man, we eat that every meal almost. Rice and beans and something else.
Yeah.
Rice and beans and steak, rice and beans chicken, and kind of go from there. And the Brazilian barbecue is top notch.
I think... So in Nigeria, they also eat a lot of rice and beans. And so when people say that, I'm like, the beans, I think the rice can be almost universal for a lot of these countries where they eat rice and beans. It's the beans is very different. It's like how they cook the beans in like Brazil for respect to Nigeria, like how they cook the beans is going to be so different.
It's completely different. Our beans is we call feijoada.
Yes.
This is pretty much chili, if you would think about it. And we put like all kinds of pork in it, the meats and all.
One of my close friends from grad school, his wife is from Portugal.
Oh, okay.
And so when they were kind of like our COVID circle. So like the only people we were seeing during COVID. And so she made feijoada for us. And so I've had it a couple times. It's like, it's good.
It's good, man. Yeah.
So is there any place in Charlotte that you can get it?
Yeah, there's a place called Brazilian Way Sports Bar.
Okay.
That's in Matthews.
Okay.
And it's not brand new. They opened about a year ago, and then you can definitely get really good feijoada there.
Okay.
There's another. That one doesn't sell feijoada, but sell Brazilian snacks. It's called Brazilian Bakery.
Cool.
That's down in Valentine, right from the Elevation Church. It's also a very good spot. That's where I went today for breakfast.
You're there.
I'm helping that business, man. Telling you,
A loyal customer over here. Okay, so you like to hang out in Noda. Where are you guys going to hike? Are you driving like to Boone, to Asheville? Like where are you guys going to hike?
you go to Asheville a lot.
Okay.
I would say at least 3-4 times a year we go to Asheville. Me and my wife will have the yearly travel to Colorado. That's way further. But every year we go at least once. Last year we went to the Sky Pound hike, which is a 13 miles hike.
Have you done Utah before?
That's my next goal.
So
That's my next goal.
I went to school at Virginia Tech, and it's right there on the Appalachian Trail. And so there's a whole bunch of hikes that students would do. And for me, I didn't love it. Like at school, it was more the social aspect of it that I enjoyed. But to me, the views weren't worth it. And if the views weren't worth it, I don't want to wake up early to just go walk and then look at something that's not worth it. But my wife and I took a trip out to Utah, and we did Antelope's Canyon and Angel's Landing, or is it Angel's Landing? Yeah. There's one you actually have to like scale up like chains. I loved it. It was the most, it was one of the hardest hikes I've ever had to do, but it was so beautiful. And I'm like, see, if we had this kind of hiking on the East Coast, I'd be willing to hike more. But for us, you get to some of these mountains and it's just like,
Cool, right? Pretty tall.
right. Like that's it. So, and then we also hiked down into the Grand Canyon.
How was it?
Down was fine. Out, it was one of the most miserable experiences of my entire life.
Dude.
And I'm like, I'm in shape. There was a guy, they have a base camp down at the bottom. So if you hike all the way down, there's like a hotel you can stay at, a restaurant. Ooh. We only went halfway. But when we were taking a break, this guy was coming back up with like the pack mules because they have to like take food down and like bring the trash back out. And I'm like, can I pay you to let me ride on the pack mule to get out of here? I don't want to walk out. It was so painful and hot, and we got out of it, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I would never do again. Like, I would never, ever do this one again.
That's good to know. You got to eliminate.
Yeah, like, I'd say hiking around the rim of the Grand Canyon, some of the short ones down. Like, this one was like 1.5 miles straight down. And I'm like, and then it was 1.5 miles, like, literally just like straight up. And it was like, would not recommend.
Challenging that.
Yeah. Around the city of Charlotte, what are some of your favorite things about Charlotte as a whole? You've been here for some years now. What are some things that you really love about it?
I love the fact that Charlotte is I don't say the perfect mix of a big city, but it still have some touch of small town.
Yeah.
You know, if you really wanted to party and like go out, you have that option. But driving 20 minutes out, you're already in a more suburban area with a lot of green, a lot of parks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like outdoors options, and I love that about Charlotte. You don't have to choose. I either, move away from everything, or I'm like, riding the city.
Yeah.
You can have a good mix.
It is a very good mix. I think you said that well. It's like a big city with a small town-ish feel. My hope is that we keep that.
I know. I'm worried about, it's been changing a lot. It's been getting packed. I hope we have the infrastructure to accommodate the amount of people that's coming to Charlotte.
Yeah. What is one of the changes that you've noticed the most being here?
Traffic has been horrible.
Yeah. I got caught the other day that I was driving around for work, and I was like, and I work from home now, so I'm not out as much during like 4 to 5 when the traffic is bad. And I was like, oh, I don't miss this. Like, I don't miss it at all. What part of town do you guys live in?
Now we're down in Qual Hollow.
Okay.
So more South Charlotte.
Okay, cool. I'm down there for the golf tournament.
You're there?
Wells Fargo. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay. Going back to your roots in Brazil and soccer, who were some, I know, so you grew up watching like prime Ronaldinho.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
What that guy did, Ronaldinho and Ronaldo Nazario, they're my two.
I was gonna ask. So yeah, I was gonna like, who were your two guys growing up that you're like, those are?
So Ronaldo Nazario and Ronaldinho, for sure. Like for me, Ronaldo Nazario was for me the GOAT. Like for me, he's the best of all time. Because it's really hard to say like who was the best, Messi or Ronaldo. Messi or this. Because like for me,
by the way, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Every time I say Ronaldo, I'm meaning like,
okay, the real Ronaldo. We're not.
Yeah, we're not
I'm glad we agree here. Cristiano Ronaldo is not in the conversation for the greatest soccer player of all time.
No,
I'm going Maradona, Pele, Ronaldo, Messi.
Exactly.
CR7 is not in the conversation.
Yeah, we're not talking about.
Okay, good. We're on the same page here.
Because he changed the scene of soccer, of football. That's the reality. Because I will ask like everybody that's not Brazilian, their second team is normally Brazil because of what Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Pelé did, you know? So they changed the entire landscaping. So that's how I see someone as a GOAT. Because you cannot really compare someone from now to someone that played different 6 years
Even my grandfather in Nigeria, when I played soccer, he would ask me, he's like, you would talk to me about watching Pele play. And I'm like,
exactly.
He's from Nigeria. Like they were watching him. Like,
it's not like there was social media before.
Yeah, right. Like, but everyone was tuned in to watch Brazil. They were just, the style of soccer is just, Ronaldinho to me was a magician with the soccer ball. Like
crazy.
Some of the things I saw him do, like I used to just watch highlights on YouTube, like Ronaldinho, and it's him flicking the ball up, look one way, and the ball goes this way, and the whole two defenders just fly past it. I'm like, that style of soccer is just so beautiful. And it's, I think this is right. Is it not Ronaldo who had the free kick that's like swerving like outside of the foot?
Recently?
No, back in the day. Was it not him? It was a man.
No, I think talking about Roberto Carlos.
Yeah, okay, I was about to say, it's not like I was like...
They went all the way up.
Yeah, like all the way looped out. Oh my gosh. Now, even for me, like those were some of... I loved watching Brazil play.
It was a beautiful game. I used to say like the British invented the game, we invented the beautiful game.
You guys made it pretty. Like they not even invented it. You made it look
exactly.
Nice. Okay, so leaving Brazil then, how about some of the players you loved back then or even now, like across the pond, like in Europe? Who are some of those players that you really enjoyed?
For now, Messi for me, there's no even discussion. Like he's the best of this time.
Yeah.
You know, he's also a great example as a person, which is something that I like a lot about him. He's a very put together player, which
Talk about
very hard to see now.
Yes.
You know, there was this generation after 2011, then when social media started getting really big, you know, and many players are kind of losing a little bit. Like, yes, you are a free person, but we are representing a country. You are a mirror for many young kids. You know, many kids that want to be like you.
Yep.
And the way you act, the way you portray yourself are influencing so many lives that it's not just like I do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You have to understand that you have some responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, that's the price you're paying for being millionaire, for being famous, for all that, right? Like, with big things come big responsibilities.
Yeah.
So I admire Messi because of that. He doesn't do field, that's not even like very insane.
Just
but the way he is put together,
the way he carries
he carries himself in a perfect way.
That's one thing that when people ask, they're like, oh, and I think a lot of, especially in the social media era, a lot of people like CR7 because of his bravado. And I'm like, there's something to be said for a player to be 5'7", 5'8", to dominate on the field for, I mean, we're talking about 15 plus years now, where he's been one of the best players, 8 Ballon d'Ors, like but never scandals, always carries himself the right way, and never seems to make the game about him. Like whatever is needed from the team, he's willing to do. Even going to PSG when it was there, like it didn't work well, but he understood he was probably not going to be the number one option, but like he's willing to do that. It's not CR7 where you're going back to Manchester United, you're expecting to be playing the full 90 minutes and demanding the ball. You don't move but a 10-yard grid. I'm like, that's not how the game is played. And like, I think Messi's integrity to the game, like he respects all parts of the game that I really appreciate.
And the amount of willpower that takes, you know, because he could say, do whatever he wants, and he just decided not to.
Yeah.
I appreciate a lot that ball.
My favorite growing up, and he's never on anybody's list, Didier Drogba.
He was big time.
Loved him. I absolutely loved him. He was just this, like when I really started watching Premier League, I played forward at the time. And Drogba's style of soccer wasn't pretty. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't Ronaldinho or Messi with the, like, he had a good touch, but it wasn't like he's doing some crazy move. It was just, he was strong, he was fast, and I absolutely just loved. At one point, I actually thought of growing my hair out.
Oh yeah, just look like this.
I asked him, like, should I perm my hair to see if I can make it look like Drogba? And my family was like, absolutely not. Like, don't do that. But he was one of those players that I just loved watching, and just like, he had the ball clutch in the biggest moments. Like, he was fantastic. I actually got to go tour the Chelsea Stadium last year, and walking past, like, outside their concourse, they have like all their, like, I guess they're Hall of Fame players there. And walking past, and I see the Drogba one, and it just like really like took my breath away. Then it's like I got to go on the field, like where he played. I watched him growing up. And it was super cool. Do you have a Premier League team?
Not really, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I do have I'm a big Madrid fan. I know, I'm sorry for that.
Wait, how do you not like CR7, but you're a Madrid fan?
I mean, okay, so I also like growing up, I was watching Nazario playing in Real Madrid.
Okay.
So that was the background. I have like him, has Zidane.
Yes, okay.
Raul, all that squad.
OG Madrid. Not
no.
Madrid of now. Okay. There's a big difference. Like, depending on what era you like, I will judge you for it. The OG Madrid was do you
But a big Haaland fan though. And like he's so fun. He's so great to watch.
He is so fun, and also like that I love that, like the big forward that's like strong and like just gonna get after and do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Goal movies?
Goal movies?
I cannot remember the actor's name. There was like 3 movies. And this guy who came from like, I don't know if it was Brazil. I believe it was a South American country where he started with like a local club and then like got called up. And like at one point he ends up playing on the Real Madrid team. Like in one of the movies, he's playing with Real Madrid. But it's like one of the biggest soccer movies, like for me growing up, that we saw. That I was like this kid, and I'm like, that could be me. And I'm like, no, actually, like that's a very rare occasion to go from like small town to playing in the big clubs. Do you have a favorite soccer movie?
Favorite soccer movie? That's a great question. The Pelé movie is really good.
Okay.
Have you watch it?
No.
It's about his life, like when he was growing up.
Okay.
Everything is very good.
Okay.
That's some scenes that's kind of tough, but I like it portrayed a big reality.
Yeah.
You know, how it is for the most Brazilians.
Yeah.
Especially back in the days. Still today, but back in the days it was even more challenging, like the lack of resources.
Yeah.
Like all the sacrifices that you need to make just to be able to practice.
Yeah.
You know, and many people nowadays don't have that awareness on how challenging it is to get where you want.
Yeah.
So I love the movie more for the reality fact of that.
Okay.
That brings.
I'm trying to think. Did you ever watch Kicking and Screaming?
Kicking and Screaming?
With Will Ferrell?
No, I don't think I did.
I'm not a Will Ferrell fan at all, but it was just
sometimes the name translates differently in Portuguese. Oh. And sometimes I just don't catch.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's fair.
I'll search that.
So I'm not a Will Ferrell fan at all. This movie was hilarious. Basically, he coached his son's team, but then 2 Italians moved to town.
Oh, I watched that. Yeah, you see, I watched that movie for sure. And his dad is better than his
Yeah. He has like, his dad got remarried and had a son that's like his son's age. The whole thing is like, pass it to the Italians. Well, after that movie came out, on my travel team, we ended up with 2 Italian brothers on the team. So it just became like the running joke, like, pass it to the Italians. Other soccer movies. Did you watch the Ted Lasso show?
Ted Lasso is amazing, man.
Oh,
I love that show. I'm still holding on the 3rd season. I haven't watched the 3rd season yet because I heard it wasn't as good as the other. I was going to tell you. And I'm afraid of watching it being disappointed.
If I'm going to be honest with you, if you don't care, if you're happy with how season 2 ended, I wouldn't watch season 3.
Yeah, that's my...
I watched season 3 and it was frustrating. They did too much. I think in the beginning, the first 2 seasons, it was really about the team and Ted.
Yeah.
Season 3, almost every episode, they were trying to give a different character their own story.
Okay.
And so it wasn't like the first 2 seasons, which was really confusing. They threw a whole bunch of storylines in that didn't make sense. They didn't fully cover, like go back and circle back to things that we were like wondering. So I didn't love it.
That's how most people.
But my wife and I actually went as characters from Ted Lasso for Halloween.
Oh, really?
So I went as Sam, Obisanya. So I taped up an old Chelsea jersey with like the tape, and then she went as Rebecca.
Okay, that's
boss,
cool.
and they dated for a little bit in the show, so it was perfect. So we had a lot of fun with that. Let's talk about the game now, like the game that we both love and that you spend all your time with. How did you come to the point where you said you want to take your passion for it from playing to now training? And what led to you starting P3 soccer? Like, tell me about that whole journey.
Sure, absolutely. So the first about what made me stay with the game and coaching. When I graduated from Queens, that was 2019. I was doing an internship with ISL agency, which is pretty much a company that owns Barca Academy and Futsal.
Yeah.
So I was doing my internship with them, and by the time I graduated, right, as an international student, I have to start thinking, okay, I need to be in a company where I can get sponsored at some point, because I have to worry about all that. And we just have 1 year to work after you graduate, and then after that, you need a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So that's so just to give you a bit of the context. So when I graduated, I was working with them, and then I received an opportunity to work with Maersk, which is a shipping company.
Okay.
They do like shipping from all over the country, like container shipping. And that was great money. That was a global company. So I could go to Brazil if I need to, which would be great for my visa in case, it didn't work and all that. And I decided to do it. I'm like, okay, I called my boss, Adam, back in the day. I was like, Adam, man, I would love working with ISL, but unfortunately I have to think for myself, so I'm going to do that. And they said, okay, man, I understand, no problem. But then in the meantime, before I get into that job, I did a camp, the Queens soccer camp. So I was coaching that. And I coached the entire week and, just make some money before I start my full-time job. And then on a Friday, the last day of the camp, this one girl came back after the camp was over with her mom. And then the mom was like, her name was Lucy, I think. Her mom was like, hey, Lucy, tell Coach what you told me. And then Lucy was like, Coach, thank you very much for coaching me. That was such a great experience. You made me love soccer even more. And when that kid said that, I'm like, man, I don't want to get away from this.
Yeah.
I want to keep hearing things like that.
Yeah.
And the other job I would be doing like logistics, that is spreadsheet. I'm like, that's not going to fulfill what I...
Yeah.
And then when that happened, literally the next day, I was already doing private sessions and had P3 in my mind, but it wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
And then I called my former boss, that just said that I wouldn't do the job anymore. Adam, listen, if you can raise my salary a little bit, because it was very low, just a little bit, man, so I can make a living. And let me do private sessions on the side, I'm going to keep with you. And then he was like, brother, I'm going to call the big boss, get back to you tomorrow. He got back to me tomorrow, increase a little bit, and they're like, okay, we're good to go. So that's how I started. I keep coaching. Awesome. So that little girl, Lucy, was the one who made me don't go into the corporate side.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the game.
Shout out to Lucy.
Shout out to Lucy. Hey, if you're ever watching it.
I really want to take a pause there and say something that I think is important. The little compliments or the feedback you give to people, don't hold on to it. Life is really short, and you never know how much just a small tidbit of information like that can change someone's life. That moment that you have changed change your life and the direction you decided to take it in. And so if you have things to uplift people, to encourage people, let them know that you're proud of them now, or that what they're doing is impacting lives, because that you don't know what people are going to do, but that can change people's lives drastically. So
I'm so grateful for Lucy.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was not in the office from day one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you had the idea then. How did you officially, when did you officially start P3? When did it go from just doing private sessions to officially starting P3?
Yeah, so the way was, I was already doing a lot of private sessions, and then I called it P3. I had an Instagram page with 2 posts, but nothing actually moving forward.
Okay.
And then I remember one day, before that, I was reading this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Very famous book.
Yeah.
And then I was reading a lot, and that motivated me to move forward with the business.
Okay.
Because at first I just wanted to have a name for what I was doing, but I never thought about actually getting into the business with it.
Yeah.
So one day I was reading this book, and then one day I'm again at the Queens field. I was looking at the field, and I saw 4 different guys that were my teammates back in the day doing private sessions with some little kids. And then I'm looking at it, and no offense to them, but you could tell there was no much effort being put into the session, right? Because the kids, they were very beginners. honestly, some of them couldn't even like kick the ball properly.
Yeah.
So I saw the coaches that kind of like wearing like sneakers, they with 2-3 cones, the kid doing whatever and kick the ball on the goal. The coach kind of, sitting on the side, not even really engaging with the kids. And then I saw that over and over. And I'm like, why there's not a private soccer program, private training, because that's my goal back in the day, private training soccer program where we, regardless of the kid's level, we can provide some quality training.
Yeah.
So that's how the idea actually started.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to get $100, which back in the day was a lot of money. I'm going to buy this tripod to start recording my sessions.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to this guy from Brazil that I know he does a little bit of branding to help me like create a logo and all that stuff. And that's how we started.
Awesome.
So I was started to put a little bit of more, not a little bit, quite a lot of more effort on my training sessions.
Yeah.
Because I think that kids from all levels should at least have the opportunity to be with a coach that wants to be there.
Yeah.
I see over and over, the kids that are like younger or beginners, they normally put someone that's just going to be there for them to run around. But no, the kids will never develop the passion for the game if they don't see the passion coming from the coach.
Yep.
And that's why P3 stands for Passion, Preparation, Performance. Because for me, everything starts with passion. So from the coaches needs to have the passion so the kids can develop the passion for the game. So that's how everything began.
That is the Brazil speaking very loud. The passion. If there's any country that's going to put passion first when they're talking about soccer, it is Brazil. It is Brazil.
So that's how we kind of started. And then I started doing a lot of private sessions. And then at some point, I had too many kids on my plate to be coach. I was doing 7 private sessions every day, back to back, 7 hours, bam, bam, bam. Ooh. And that was too many. People were asking, and I didn't have the time anymore. And then I have a friend from Brazil, but his name is Felipe. It was Felipe. No, first was Neto.
Okay.
There's one of my best friends, Neto, and then Felipe. So both of them were here in Charlotte, and they were from Brazil. So I started asking them, hey guys, do you guys want to do some private session as well? And they're like, yeah, sure. They need to make some extra money. So I started passing some of the kids that were reaching out to me for them, and I taught them how I coach, how the passion needs to be there, the intensity, how it needs to be there. And then they started coaching with me, and we could have more clients, and we started expanding to more and more coaches.
Yeah.
And that's how kind of it developed. And then by 2020, that's kind of sad to say, but the COVID, when it hit, in a way helped me in this sense, because the kids were outside the club and outside the school, so the parents were like,
they need to do something.
I need one-on-ones, or I need my kid to be with their little group of friends to do something together. That's when we started doing small groups, and we started actually expanding.
Man.
So, yeah.
I will say a lot, COVID was unfortunate for so many reasons that we don't have to explain, right? But COVID also, I think, catapulted a lot of people's creativity, their companies, their businesses, and like push people like out to do things. It's like in that moment, that's where you're able to take off. So unfortunate, but there's something beautiful that comes out of it. So when did you guys officially, P3 became a business in what year?
That was the end of 2020, sorry.
End of 2020. Yes. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you.
As someone who grew up doing the whole travel soccer, the private training, like this is one when I was prepping for this interview, I'm like, I understand this world more than probably anything else. Like I've done it, like the summer camps, the private sessions, like the going. So there was years, I had a few years where I'd go fall soccer or fall indoor futsal because it's too cold to be outside. We go straight to futsal, spring soccer, summer soccer, fall. And like there was probably a 2-year period where I probably had 4 weeks a year off where I was not playing soccer. It was for one thing. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And just hearing you talk about that passion, it did make a difference. Like having coaches who really care and show up and want you to do well, as opposed to coaches more so babysitting.
Yeah, it's
just watching you. I did coach a team here in Charlotte, and it was a rec team. And the girls, they were all more like, they all were athletes doing other stuff. Soccer was a social thing. Dude, some of the stories that I have, I had them come to practice once, or it was a game. And one of the girls looked at me and said, "Hey coach, I don't feel like running today." And I was like, you chose the one sport to play where you have to run the whole time. What am I supposed to do for you? We're in a game. All of a sudden there was a girl, "Coach, I feel sick." All right, get her off the field. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "I feel like I'm going to pass out." I'm like, all right, what did you eat today? I'm trying to like understand, like, dehydrated, what's going on? What did you eat? Well, mind you, the game's at 3 p.m.
Okay.
What did you eat? Well, 2 or 3 bagel bites. I said, huh? I was like, the little bagel? She goes, yeah. I said, you had 3 of them, knowing that it's going to be 90 degrees outside today, and that's all you've eaten today, and you're wondering whether you're going to pass out. And they cracked me up so much. But what I loved the most being around them was I actually got to teach them like soccer. Like when I could actually get them to show up, like teaching them strategy, defensive positions, and like how to move the ball around, and seeing it click and seeing them do it on the field. Like, I'm sure you have some players where you're drilling something and you don't think they're getting it. It's just like, what are you doing? But they'd get on the field and then I'd see like sparks of it like happening. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh my God, it's happening. Like, that's what it's on. And man, that feeling is just like, to see them catching on to it and enjoying it. Like, I could only imagine. You get to do that all the time. That's gotta be so cool.
It's awesome. It's beautiful, man. And what kind of going back to your team, like they were lucky to have someone like you that had the experience of playing.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to teach them, which is something that sometimes in recreational soccer is challenging.
Yeah.
You know, many times there are some parents that have never. I mean, they have the best of intention, right? But they never play. So sometimes it's really hard for the kids to actually develop either a passion for the game or to like learn anything, because they just don't have the knowledge, the parents sometimes, you know. So one of the things that we do with P3 is that we always emphasize on the fact that our coaches, all of them, had some experience with the game.
Yeah.
Like they need more coaching training. Of course, we're working on that, but they have played. So they can give 1, 2, 3 tips that's gonna like stick with the kid. They're gonna learn from that. So that's one of my missions here, to make sure every coach knows the game.
I started playing, my first coach ever was my dad.
Okay.
And so growing up, my dad coached me at like 3 and coached me until I was like maybe like 7 or 8. And my uncle coached me. And it was cool to like have that, like it was just kind of like our thing that we did. And so no matter what level of soccer I was playing on, my dad was like, he's at games, he's like giving me notes in the car. It's like, you should have done this better. But like that passion, and he just drove that like that excellence and really wanted to be good at it. But I mean, in Nigeria, they play a lot of soccer. And so he didn't grow up playing formally, but just even from playing in the park with friends, like he understood the game and like he was able to teach that. And then he got to the point, he was like, okay, now you need coaches who know more the technical pieces of the game than I can provide. And that's when he was like, all right, I didn't actually want to play travel soccer, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I was just not, I was like, I'll play rec with my friends. And he was like, no, he's like, if you want to get better, you have to go to coaches who could help you get better. And I was like, like I cried. Like I did not want to go to tryout. And then I got out there and I saw a higher level of soccer and was so excited.
All right, that's what I like.
Like I got hooked. I'm like, okay, this is going to be my life. You've got something really cool going on that I want you to talk about. Your partnership with Charlotte FC.
Yes.
Talk about that. I feel like that's a really cool opportunity for you, especially being less than 5 years old and what you're doing. One, I feel like it's a nod to your hard work and what you guys are building, but talk about that partnership.
Absolutely. I was very hyped when Charlotte FC came to this town, because I was sad. That's what we needed here.
Yeah.
The kids need someone to look up to, because we did have professional teams here before, but they're not an MLS team. So it does make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So as soon as they got into town, I started doing some camps and clinics with Charlotte FC, helping them with their very first camps.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jeff, great guy, who kind of was the first person to connect with me here when they moved to Charlotte. So I started doing a lot of soccer camps and clinics with them, and then I always talk to them, hey guys, at some point I would love to collaborate with you, because I love the fact that they have a lot of community initiatives.
Oh yeah.
So they have the small pitches that they put in a lot of different areas in Charlotte. They do a lot of events that are close to free. So many kids from all different backgrounds can do that.
Yeah.
So by collaborating with them, my goal has been to use their brand in a way that I'm saying, use their brand for us to be able to do more for more kids.
Yeah.
And have more kids having the opportunity to be participating in soccer to some extent.
Yeah.
The last camp we did together, we have a lot of kids from our Bridge for Kids, which is a local nonprofit. And it was awesome to see like 20 kids over there.
Awesome.
20 kids that maybe never had the chance to be in a structured soccer, or never had the chance to be close to a Charlotte FC kind of coaching wise, with all the nice gear and nice everything. So that's what the beautiful of that partnership with Charlotte.
Yeah. So how have you seen, because you've been here even before Charlotte FC, I want you to talk a little more about the landscape of soccer in Charlotte and how that's changed. So being here from Queens to now, how have you seen kind of the attention or the popularity of soccer change here in Charlotte?
Oh, yeah, it's growing so much.
Yeah.
Each day there's more and more kids interested in the game. Each day there's a new trainer, there's a new private training program that like a competition is super high now, which that's awesome because that pushes all of us to do better. And at the end of the day, the kids win from that.
Yeah.
Right. So
I love that you said that though, like that you're seeing the competition as something driving you and not like, oh, I'm upset that they're here. And for the betterment of the kids is what I think is most important.
You know, if I do my best, if the coach next door does the best and the kid decides to go with him or go with it, doesn't matter. They're going to get the best training.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing in the landscape now. What I still want to see from the city per se is more investment into school soccer. In the middle schools, elementary schools, that's something that we are trying to also work on, and high schools. Because unfortunately, like the path to college is still too strict to the soccer clubs. But unfortunately, most of them are very expensive and requires a lot of hours from parents to be able to drive them back and forth. And there's a lot of kids out there with a lot of talent that are just not being recruited with scholarship for colleges because they cannot afford to be in a club.
You are teeing up the next segment of what I was going to say perfectly. I think I was fortunate enough to have two parents, and so my brother and I could afford to play travel soccer. But one of the teams I played on, it was an hour from home, 3 days a week. And so that's a whole family thing. Like it is, we're driving all the way out. We're packing dinner. Like my mom was a pro at having dinner packed in a heated cooler. So that way, as soon as I get off the field, I can eat. So that way, by the time I get home, I can shower and get right back into homework. But it was like, everyone doesn't have a capacity, one, from having both parents around to be able to do that, the finances to be able to do that. And I think that's something that I struggle with when I think of the landscape of soccer in America is the whole pay-to-play system that we have. And I think of some of these places like Brazil or Spain or some of these other places where if you can play, you can play. And they're going to make sure you get the best training to maximize your potential. But here there's some guys that and people laugh when I say it, but I'm so serious. There are guys that I've played with that could have played on the national team that we have now, but they couldn't get on the best team because they couldn't travel. They have one parent, multiple siblings all trying to play soccer, so they can't just send one to go play on another team. And so they never get to college because they never get to play on the right team where college coaches are coming to watch them. And there's talent where you're playing in some of these men's league teams, like you guys had real skills and it's pay to play. And I truly, truly hate it. And so I'm glad to hear that it's like you're seeing that too and trying to fight against it.
Yeah, so much because that drives me crazy. Like it shouldn't. The best players that we have in town right now, they're the best they can afford. Unfortunately, the ones that are in the top ECNL, whatever they call, are just the kids. They're good players, but they're the good players that can pay. Imagine how many times we letting behind because they just cannot afford, right? And then now, if you have really good investment in middle schools and high schools. Then the kid that goes to these public schools, they can have a quality training at their school. So their parents don't have to commute. So they have an opportunity to train well. And then if the money is there, the investment is there, the quality of coaching is there, that's also going to translate into high school. And if all these resources in there, then college is going to start coming to the high schools to recruit for the colleges, not to the clubs necessarily or only. The problem is not having the clubs. The problem is only being the only option. You should have more than one option.
Even if you think about basketball, AAU basketball for the most part is paid for. Like if you're good enough, from my understanding, like all the people that I know, like if you're good enough, you make those teams, you're not paying. Like they have funding for that. And so a coach might show up, a college coach might show up to your AAU tournament, but also might come watch your high school game too. And in soccer, I feel like is one of the only ones where you're only showing up for the travel team. I'm trying to think, even like track and field is a high school sport. Like you're good at coaches are going to come there. Soccer is the only one where it's like you got to play on the best club team to get into the best tournaments for the coach to come and find you.
And that's really sad. That's really sad. Like even the best players in the club, like I have this girl that I coach for many, many years. She's a baller, man. Amazing player. She pays $4,000 a year to be in her club. And she's the absolute best at her team. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. If you're that good, she's on a national team, man. and she still paid $4K a year.
She's on the national team.
Yes,
for her age?
U15, if I'm not wrong. Yes.
Like, that doesn't make sense. How are you on the national? So you're clearly one of the best 25 players in the country in your age group, and you have to pay for the
Yep. Because many of the goals of many of the clubs is not necessarily to develop, is to keep having.
If you want to hear advocacy for soccer and children done the right way, this is the guy right here. I'm so serious. Like,
appreciate it.
This is like, and a lot of people talk about it, but you're actually doing the work to combat it. And I think that's the difference. Like, actually being willing to put your money where your mouth is and do what you can to try to fix the system. Absolutely. It's a really broken system, but do what you can. But I mean, that's something that every time I think about soccer, I've said this and people look at me like I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. In our lifetime, I'd bet a lot of money that the United States never wins a World Cup. And people are like, no, why? I'm like, because when the barrier to entry is so high, so high. I'm like, when your best players won't even consider, your best athletes won't even consider playing the game because it's so expensive to get into, and then there's no return on investment down the road. Why? If I'm 6'4", why am I going to go play soccer?
Exactly.
Like, I can go play basketball, I can go play football, and somebody's going to pay me a lot of, or even baseball. But like, why am I going to go play soccer where if my parents don't have the money, I can't play for the best team, I can't get to where I want to get to? And I'm like, for that reason, our national team will never have the talent necessary. In Brazil, it's the best of the best.
Exactly. If you're the best, you don't pay.
Like if Argentina is the best of the best. Like, Messi's family doesn't come from money.
No, most don't.
Like, most of them, it's like you go back and watch their videos of where they're from. It's not pretty areas.
And the thing that drives me crazy too is because soccer doesn't need to be expensive. That's the thing. If you talk about ice hockey, oh God, man, they have all this equipment. You need skaters and all. You need an arena. You cannot just play outside. But you're talking about like
a ball, cleats.
Not even. Barefoot doing it, you know? Like,
true. Grass and a ball. That is all you need.
You put 2 sticks and call that a goal, you know? Like,
it's frustrating. And like, even, and the other thing too, that I think because it's new and the way our country just evolved, soccer was developing as like, I feel like politics started playing a lot more a role in children's sports than it should. And so I feel like soccer at the club levels gets so political. Like, there are guys that I know that should have been on certain teams, but because this coach had coached that one player 3 years ago and his family friends with them now, he makes the team even though the much better player should have made the team. Or I've even heard situations where, oh, this is the next level up team. The best player from the lower level team wants to go to that team. But, oh, wait, if we move him from that team, now that team is going to suck, and we don't want that team to suck because then they're not going to want to play. And it's like, you're holding him back from playing at the next level because you're worried about this team instead of, hey, we want to see you grow and be successful.
Can I share a story real quick?
Please. No names. No names. No names. Don't need to get everyone in trouble.
Going off with what you're saying about this little politics, like, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Constantly. That's why I'm telling you here, I have no plans on coaching in certain clubs because I don't want to have to deal with those things. For instance, back in the days when I was coaching a club, we had this one team that was a pretty decent team, right? It was a futsal team. Good team and stuff. But then we had a group of about 5 players that wanted to come to our academy. And they were the best 5 players in the city, right? So the club was like, hey, Pedro, you need to take them. I'm like, okay. But our squad is still kind of big. Like, if I bring them, we're going to have team A and B, okay? But anyway, we brought the kids in. Our team got really good. We have to split them into teams. It started being a little bit of an issue with some parents that didn't love that. And then, like, there's always some parents that had a little bit more influence on the entire team.
Parents with some money, deep pockets.
Or just the ones that talk more. And then those 2 parents, they're starting to, one kid went to the team B, and then the other kid went to the team A. And then these parents started coming to us and be like, listen, if our kids are not playing together, I'm going to pull my kids out of the team. But because they are the parents' leader, if they go out, then we lose 8 players because they all go together. So then I feel under pressure to be having to choose the kids from the parents that bother me the most while the parents are just accepting, let me do my job because that's what they're paying for. For me to, I don't go to their job and tell them what to do.
Talk about
right?
it, Pedro.
But they come to me and tell me, not that I do everything right, I might make a lot of mistakes, but I need to be able to make my choice.
Yeah.
And then when it got to the point, my parents were threatening leaving and bring everybody out because if I don't do what they wanted me to do, then I'm like, you know what, I'm out of here. So that's why I decided, that's one big factor that maybe, okay, now I'm going to do full-time P3 because we are a club neutral program. I'm here to train the kids, help them get better, provide opportunities to practice, period.
And whatever happens at the club is
that's not my
is not part of you. Yeah. I want to touch on something. You guys have been expanding.
Yes.
And so I want you to talk about some of your expansion so people know that P3 now isn't just soccer. You guys are doing basketball.
We're doing basketball.
Okay. How did that come about?
Well, that came about from, we registered the company when we started as P3 Sports.
Okay.
Because a lot of the things that we were seeing on the soccer scene, we started seeing in other sports scenes as well. Our first idea was to start with lacrosse, but for some other reason we decided not to. But very recently, I connected with one player from Queens, a basketball player that he used to be a great player, but then got a bad injury and couldn't keep on playing. And he talked to me of his desire to coach, because he saw what I did. And I was like, man, one of my plans always to expand to different sports. And I was like, would you like to maybe be the face of the P3 basketball if we find a way to start it? You're like, man, I would love to. I don't have the time right now to start something on my own. But I would love to, be the
partner with you,
partner to and be the leader of that. So that's how we started. So we had the after-school soccer in a few schools in Charlotte, and then we decided to implement. Okay, let's connect to the school to see if they'd be interested on after-school basketball. And I was very surprised, like very little schools offer after-school basketball. I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity there. So we are now in 5 schools doing after-school basketball, and we have a few college coaches as well.
Awesome.
Doing the training there, just like soccer. Only people who've experienced to be coaching the schools.
I think there is, there's something to be said when people get to like walk their life and their purpose.
Yes.
And I think you are absolutely doing that. That this heart for doing right by the kids, bringing the passion to the sport, whether it's soccer or basketball or whatever other sport you guys expand into in the future. But like, walking out your purpose and knowing like you're called to do this. You clearly have the talent. The talent has brought you to a whole nother continent there. So there's that. But then the passion to continue to grow the game and see the game grow the right way, to develop kids and develop a love for the game. I think that's different. The people being driven by the game because their parents want them to play is different than children learning to love the game.
100%.
And I think you are clearly walking in your purpose to help grow that. And it's people like you that are going to hopefully change the culture of soccer across the country. It's going to be Pedro's here. It's going to be Pedro's in Virginia, New York, or California that are really going to change. And maybe it's because of people like you that I'm wrong and we do win a World Cup before
I'm super wrong, man.
Maybe it's going to be because of, if it does change, it's going to be because of people like you affecting the systems and calling it out, to say that the way we're doing this isn't working anymore. So again, seriously, kudos to you for doing the hard work. As someone who's come up in the system and has seen all the ins and outs of it, you're hitting everything on the head, like have everything on the head. So, I mean, kudos to you. Do you guys have an idea what sport you might do next, or just focus on soccer and basketball? Right
as for now, we're going to focus on soccer and basketball. We had on back of our head or maybe tennis.
Okay.
If that is an opening there, but still gotta, organize a few things, make sure that we keep our service and our quality in the same standards that we want to for both sports, because as you grow, it becomes more challenging to keep the same standards. So we're working on that now, but hopefully in a couple of years, we're going to start some new sport.
If you guys were public on the stock market, I'd buy a lot of P3 stock.
All right.
If you guys were public, I'd buy a lot. Where can the people find you guys? Social media, website? Go ahead and plug that now, because I want people to know that they can come to you guys for great training, like comprehensive, holistic training for their kids.
Absolutely. So p3soccerlab.com is our website.
Okay.
Our Instagram page is @p3soccerlab. So over there, you're going to find all the product, all the services we offer. Okay. We offer one-on-one training, group sessions. We do clinics in the winter and the summer. It's called high intensity program. That's what we call. We have summer camps happening every summer.
Okay.
And over there, we're also going to find the basketball information. And then the basketball, we're rebuilding the website right now. And it should be up and going very soon.
Okay.
And for the basketball side, as for now, we're only offering after school basketball.
Okay.
But very, very soon, we want to go into also the small groups and private training.
Do you have anything exciting that you can tell us coming up, whether it's something else with Charlotte FC or anything, or right now you guys are just kind of riding the summer wave of like all the summer camps and stuff? Anything exciting?
So we do have a project that I cannot give much detail yet.
What can you give me? Just give me a little bit.
I don't want to give any idea.
Okay, all right.
But the goal behind this initiative is to provide parents with the opportunity to have their kids playing close from home. So there's convenient games, like they don't have to be traveling like you mentioned, right, for hours, and at an affordable price.
Okay.
And they're going to be representing their school to some extent. Yeah. So that's all I'm going
to say. Awesome. Hey, Queen City Unleashed, anybody watching, listening, again, please show some love to Pedro and the P3 family. Pedro, thank you so much. I've had a lot of fun. I'm glad to get to chop it up with someone who loves football, soccer the way that I do. But thank you for listening and tuning in. Looking forward to bringing you another interview soon. But for right now, Queen City out. Thank you.
Thank you.